What are Putin's plans for Ukraine?
We have to keep in mind that for Putin, for Russian political leadership, this is not a war against Ukraine. I keep repeating that for these people, Ukraine does not exist and Ukrainians do not exist. So you cannot wage a war on the country that does not exist. This is a war against the West. So this is just the first stage of a big war that these people were preparing for many, many years. Speaking of this Ukrainian stage of this war, the objective of the political objective of this military operation is a military control over Ukraine. Ukraine cannot be a sovereign state.
The world has been shocked by the brutality of the Russian troops in Ukraine. I'm talking about the mass killings, the rapes, the extended looting.
I was not surprised by that. And well, one thing that made me anticipate those terrible events was the new language used by the Russian president. And that was the language of denazification, which actually amounts to attaining purity, amounts to purifying Ukraine, basically decomposing it into two components: the pure component, the Russian component, and the dirty component, what they call the Nazi component, which is basically Ukrainian component. So you have to decompose the country, and that means purges.
How do you imagine this war ending?
Ending this war demands clear and resolute unity from everyone opposing this war. I keep reminding you that Moldova, the territorial integrity of Moldova, is already on the table. And it is very, very likely that Eastern Europe can be involved in the next step, countries like Poland and Lithuania. So that requires a lot of unity, a lot of resoluteness to resist that. This is a major danger. If there is enough unity, if there is enough resoluteness to confront it, then I think at some point it will become obvious that this war cannot be won by Vladimir Putin and his and Russian political leadership. I think it might go as far as reaching some sort of nuclear crisis, because the Russian leadership has nothing to lose. And it just matters what would be the conditions in which we approach this nuclear crisis. If Vladimir Putin gets away with some territorial gains in Ukraine, that will definitely not stop in Ukraine. It will go further and further.
You said that the Russian leadership is not worried about a nuclear crisis. Would you elaborate?
First of all, there is a deep certitude in the Russian elites that a nuclear threat to Western Europe or to the United States would lead to the dissolution of NATO bloc. That Article 5 is not going to work. And once there is a real threat of nuclear escalation, Western Europe would not fight for Poland, for instance. And that would mean the dissolution of the NATO bloc. If the Article 5 doesn't work, that would be de facto a dissolution. And that would open the way for changing the geopolitical order in Europe. So this is calculation number one. I think it is really important. And even on Russian nuclear doctrine, you have this idea of escalation for de-escalation, which basically means that you have to escalate until your opponent decides that it becomes too dangerous and de-escalates by making concessions. But if it goes all the way along without de-escalation, and if Vladimir Putin faces real possibility of a major defeat, which for him is existential, because once again he started this war considering Ukraine to be an existential threat for him. Once it becomes existential for Putin, I mean, he said it many times that without Russia, the world doesn't deserve to exist. And make no mistake, by Russia, he means himself. So without himself in power, the world doesn't deserve to exist.